The scheduled school committee meeting. Will all please rise? City Council, excuse me. Going to be a long meeting. If we please start the meeting with a prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Now salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Counsel Kennedy.
Here.
Counsel Leahy.
Here.
Counsel Martin.
Here.
Counsel Mercia.
Here.
Counsel Milanazzo.
Here.
Counsel Rourke.
Here.
Counsel Samaras.
Here.
Counsel Belanger.
Here.
Mayor Elliott.
Here.
9 present.
9 present. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in Docking Chamber for Peter Martin, son of Roger Martin and the late Catherine Martin of Lowell. Peter was educated in the Lowell Public Schools, graduating with honors from Lowell High School in 1978. He led his football and baseball teams as a quarterback and catcher and was elected to the Athletics Hall of Fame. He continued to Trinity College, where he majored in economics and excelled in the football and baseball field, including being honored as an All-American in baseball. Later in his career, he returned to school, competing the Harvard University's Advanced Management Program in 2002. Peter was a beloved husband, son, father, grandfather, brother, son-in-law, father-in-law, brother-in-law, uncle, and friend to many. Peter is survived by his lovely wife of 34 years, his high school sweetheart, Lainey Nayland Martin, and his 4 children, Peter, Kara, James, and Robert, and his 2 grandchildren, Hazel and Jack. Peter was the youngest of 7 children and is survived by his brothers, Roger, David, and Brian Martin, who is the headmaster at Lowell High School, former mayor, and city councilor. His 2 sisters, Kathy and Elizabeth, his brother James, who predeceased him in 1995. We offer our sympathy to his family, relatives, and his many friends. May he rest in peace. As well as I'd also like to add a moment of silence in Docking Chamber to a hero, a gentleman named Walter Hedlund Jr. He was the beloved husband of the late V. Edna Hedlund, who passed away in 2002. Mr. Hedlund was a distinguished longtime resident and civic leader of Chelmsford. He was born in Lowell, he attended schools in Lowell, and was a graduate of Lowell High School with the class of 1939, and went on to attend the Lowell Textile Evening Division of Accounting. Mr. Hedlund proudly served his country in the United States Army during World War II. He was a D-Day veteran, serving for 3 years as a tech sergeant in the 29th Infantry Division, 3rd Battalion, 115th Regiment, Company 1. Mr. Hedlund was a highly decorated veteran, having received the Expert Combat Infantry Badge, the Silver Star Medal, 2 Bronze Star Medals with 2 oak leaf clusters, 3 Purple Hearts with 2 oak clusters, Good Conduct Medal, the European Theater Operation Medal with 4 Battle Stars and Bronze Arrowhead, German Occupation Medal, President Unit Citation, and the French Legion of Honor, which is France's highest distinction in honor of his wartime service. Few people knew the specifics of his heroics until the past year, as he worked on an upcoming book highlighting the stories of the last 3 surviving members of the Elite Special Forces Division he served on. Like many veterans of the greatest generation, Mr. Hedlund never spoke of his war experiences. Mr. Hedlund was nominated for the Medal of Honor for his bravery, but he received a Silver Star instead. After his honorable discharge, Mr. Hedlund went on to own and operate the former Saunders Funeral Home in Lowell until his retirement. He was very active in the funeral service industry and was the past president of both the Greater Lowell Funeral Directors Association and the Mass Funeral Directors Association. Mr. Hedlund was a former chapter chairman of the Greater Lowell Red Cross, and for over 50 years he was the former vice chairman of the Lowell Salvation Army Advisory Board. Mr. Hedlund leaves a son, Walter R. Hedlund III, and 3 granddaughters, 4 great-grandchildren. Mr. Hedlund was a hero, such a remarkable gentleman, and as his son said, a tough act to follow. Our sympathy to his family, relatives, and many friends. He will be truly missed, and we offer a moment of silence as well to all those that have passed away since our last meeting. May they all rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Council Mercia. Seeing no further comments, could we all please rise for a moment of silence, and we could please darken the chambers. May they rest in peace. First item we have on the City Council agenda this evening under the Mayor's business is a citation for Fire Chief Edward Skip Pitter upon his retirement. The Chief has joined us here this evening. Thank you for joining us, Chief. We haven't met in several weeks, and we wanted to take this opportunity on behalf of the City Council to recognize you, Chief, for your years of service to the city. You know, for the better part of almost 4 decades, you worked for the city, working your way up from the ranks of fire chief, firefighter to the position of chief of the fire department in this city. I can tell you, in the short time that I've been the mayor in one of the city's most devastating fires, I did see you in action as fire chief, and nothing but professionalism and the people underneath you serving with you at your side and doing just a commendable job. So, Chief, we want to take an opportunity to serve you. It's not an easy job. We know that. We know that each and every time that alarm rings, and if you responded to hundreds and thousands of alarms in the city, we know that each and every time you don't know what you're going into, what you're going to face, or even if you'll return. So on behalf of the city and this entire City Council, we'd like to offer you a citation. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we hereby extend our sincere gratitude and congratulations to you, Fire Chief Edward Skip Pitter, upon your retirement from the Lowell Fire Department on May 16th, 2015. We thank you for your great devotion and service to maintaining safety in the City of Lowell for 36 years. The entire City of Lowell is proud to honor Chief Pitter, and we wish you all the best in the coming years. Given on this 14th day of July 2015, on behalf of myself, Rodney Elliott, the mayor, and this entire City Council, the city manager and the staff, and I'm sure the entire fire department and the residents of this city, we thank you, Chief. We wish you well, and we congratulate you once again.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, thank you very much for this recognition of my 36-year career with the Lowell Fire Department, the last 8 as the city's fire chief. Walking in tonight, I had several people tell me, geez, you look rested, you look good, so I'm thinking I must have looked pretty bad when I was the fire chief or something. Without doubt, my last 8 years on the department as the fire chief were the most rewarding of my entire career. It was just a great source of pride for me, and it was truly an honor to have had the opportunity to lead the great institution that is the Lowell Fire Department. I couldn't be more proud of those guys. I've said it before, the citizens of Lowell are very, very well served by their fire department. These men and women would do anything you asked them. They'd literally run through a wall for you, and it was my honor and my privilege to have been the fire chief and to lead that organization for 8 years. So again, on behalf of my family, my wife Diane, my sons Brian and Matt, who are with me tonight, I really, really appreciate this recognition, and I thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you again, Chief, and to his family as well for allowing him to provide safety to the city. With that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, and the city clerk. Yep,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could request a suspension of the rules to take a motion out of order, please.
sure, absolutely, Councilman. Just going to
10.9.
motion to suspend the rules to take item 10.9 out of order by Councilor O'Rourke, seconded by Councilman Milanazo. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. We'll take up 10.9. Mr. Clerk? This is a motion by Councilor O'Rourke. Request City Council dedicate new playground at Gage Field in honor of Ben Hall Masterson. Seconded by Councilor Samaras. Councilor O'Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we do have some registered speakers, but quickly, I brought this forward on behalf of the Friends of Gage Field, who have been working very hard for a new playground at Gage Field. So far, they have raised over $30,000 through fundraisers, concerts, and so forth. The board does consist of a few classmates of mine from Lowell High School who are both hardworking and terrific people. So without further ado, Mr. Clerk, I know some people want to speak on the subject.
Please come to the podium. Everyone.
Melissa DeRoches.
Hi, my name's Melissa DeRoches. I'm the chair of Friends of Gage Field. I had to write that down in case I forgot it. I'm here tonight. My husband is here, Mike DeRoches, my vice chair, Melissa Kusinatis, and our secretary, Carrie Morales. Heidi Miller from the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group is here to support us as well. And we are also joined by the Masterson family. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to be here, and thank you, Councilor Rourke, for putting us on the agenda tonight. You know, you've been a great support to us. A lot of you on the council have also been friends of ours. Councilor Mercier, Councilor Markey. Would also like to thank State Rep Tom Golden. Anything we need, he is there for us. He takes all of our calls. He helps us in any way that he can. Would like to thank Tom Belgard. He has pretty much advised us on this whole process. And what we've been doing, the Friends of Gage Field, we've been working to raise money for new playground equipment at the park at Gage Field, and that's up in Centerville on Beacon Street. We host 3 different annual events. We do a St. Patrick's Day event, a fundraiser. We do the summer music series, which we are currently running right now. Tomorrow night is our second night of the series. It's 7 to 9. We have free outdoor music, and we also host an annual Halloween party for the kids outside in the fall. So we have raised over $30,000 so far. We are here tonight to honor a wonderful Centerville family, the Mastersons. They're amazing people. They're longtime residents of Centerville. They're very involved in the community. 13 years ago, their son Ben passed away. Since that day, they've worked tirelessly and dedicatedly to help keep his memory alive, and we are hoping to name the playground the Ben Hall Masterson Memorial Playground. And actually, they're here to say a few words.
Good evening. I'm Jen Masterson. This is my husband, Scott Masterson. Our son, Ben, was stillborn on June 6th, 2002. In his memory, we started a memorial fund in Ben's name. Our mission with the memorial fund is to help children live a life like Ben would have. My husband and I both grew up, and we still live in Centerville today. We are very happy to live in such a special place. We're beyond thrilled that children from our neighborhood, including our own children, will be able to enjoy a park in memory of Ben. It has been wonderful working with the Friends of Gage Field to help make the park a reality.
Anyone else? Someone else wants to come up. No, one more chance. We'd love to hear from you. Okay. Well, with that, I'm sure there are members of the council that would like to say a few words, but we thank you. We thank you for all you do. This is a good example of how Lowell comes together to support and provide, a wonderful park, and I'm sure we're going to honor that request. So, Councilor Rourke, you all set on your motion? We're right to Councilor Mercia.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Many times over the years, newspapers, people ask, what are the greatest assets in the city of Lowell? And every time I say, and I'm sure my colleagues say, the people that live here. This is a fine example of what we're all talking about. When we have devastation like floods, people come together. When we have parks that are gone astray a little bit because, there's only so much money that can handle it, and there's a need in a community, the neighbors come together and they create such a diverse committee that does all kind of innovative ideas. I know all the hard work that they have been through, and it doesn't take just a little time, it takes years, and they've come together to raise $30,000. How amazing. Of course we would support this motion, a very good motion by Councilor Rourke. I'm just so pleased because the budget and the taxpayers can't sustain everything, and these people want something so bad enough that they go out and they do everything they can to make it happen. I congratulate our residents in the city, such as those that came forward. Thank you so much for letting our city look so good in the memory of a baby that has passed away. How sad. We did a similar situation up to Kittredge Park with the family that wanted children to enjoy themselves, so they created a little park up there on Kittredge Park with the swings and the slide and everything. That is so wonderful, and I'm very sorry of your loss, and thank you for coming forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mercia. Further thoughts and comments? Councilor Rourke?
Just remind, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Melissa, the next 3 Wednesdays, there's a concert right, at Gage Field, true? Right. What time is that at? 7 to 9. Okay, thank you.
So, just for people at home, there's a concert for the next 3 weeks. Please go there to attend. So, on behalf of the city, thank you. This motion requests the council dedicate this. I presume this has to go to the Board of Parks. Is that correct? Councilor Mercia?
The Board of Parks, that would be true. They meet on the last Wednesday in every month. And if you want, I would be there as well if you would want. It starts at 6 o'clock. And it's right at the JFK, the planning department, across the JFK Plaza at the planning department. Okay? 2nd floor. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor, do you want to amend that, your own motion?
We sent to the Board of Parks,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
So, motion to amend and send this to the Board of Parks for their approval by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Malinazzo. All those in favor of that amendment signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Motion to approve as amended by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, this goes to the Board of Parks. We thank you for all that you do. We thank the friends, we thank the family, and we'll look forward to, we will be there at the dedication when this does take place. So thank you again for everything that you did for the city. Okay?
Mr. Mayor?
Any further motions, requests to suspend, Councilor
Yes,
Mercia?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. While we're under suspension of the rules, I know there are a few people here for different motions. I know they would enjoy nothing better than to sit here all night long to listen to everything we have to say, but why give them the satisfaction of that? I would like to take this motion out of order. 10.3, request the city council name the splash pad at the former site of O'Donnell Park in honor of John J. O'Donnell.
Okay, motion to suspend by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. The purpose is to take motion 10.3 out of order. This motion is by Councilor Mercia. Request City Council name the splash pad at former site of O'Donnell Park in honor of John J. O'Donnell. Seconded by Councilor Belancha. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is a person registered to speak, Carol McCarthy.
Mr. Clerk.
Carol McCarthy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Manager, and members of the City Council. My name is Carol McCarthy. I live at 64 Blossom Street. I am co-chair of the Riverside Neighborhood Council and the Sacred Heart Neighborhood Improvement Group. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak before you tonight. The issue before you was close to my heart. It has been a mission that our neighborhood group has been asking the city to develop for several times now. Thank you, Councilor Rita Mercier, for bringing this motion forward tonight. I would also like to thank former City Council Marty Lowry and Tom Bellegarde for giving the final push to make this project a reality for our neighborhood. I'm talking about the old city pool that was located off Gorham Street on the former O'Donnell's Park. This pool had seen better days, but due to poor conditions and extremely high cost to renovate, the city was forced to close the pool. The reason I stand here before you is that I'm asking that the new splash pad that replaces the old pool be named in memory of a young man, John J. O'Donnell. The park that once was our neighborhood park was named in his memory. O'Donnell Park no longer exists the way the neighborhood people remember it. I've been told stories about how in the early years, the circus would arrive at the Gallagher Terminal and proceed up Gorham Street to put on a show for the people of our city. The number of people who told me that their brothers, boyfriends, cousins, or husbands were once a lifeguard for the old pool, and how in the wintertime the fire department would flood an area of the park for the people to skate upon. Those days are gone now, and what sits upon this site are two schools, one an elementary, the other a middle school, a ball field, and a stone that bears the name John J. O'Donnell. Today, in place of the old pool, we have a beautiful splash pad that will bring good times for the children of our neighborhood and the city. John Joseph O'Donnell was the son of Mr. and Mrs. Bartholomew O'Donnell. He was a brother of 6 sisters, Annie, Josephine, Marcella, Mary, Alice, and Margaret, and 2 brothers, James and William. He and his family lived at 54 Manchester Street. He was a graduate of the Sacred Heart School and was a former member of the Indian Club. He was 21 years old when he enlisted to serve his country in the Navy. His rank was Seaman Second Class. He served on board the American destroyer Manly. His family last heard from him on February 23, 1918, in a letter that he wrote home stating that he was spending some furlough time with his aunt who lived in Manchester, England. In a letter that he wrote to his uncle, John O'Donnell, of 171 Crosby Street, several weeks before the Manly was rammed by a British warship, John apologized to his uncle for not writing sooner and that he hadn't forgotten the favor that he did for him before he left. He talked about how he was having the time of his life and how kind the people were to the sailors, how they welcomed them into their homes and how they would sit around the fireplace brewing tea. He joked about how the girls would love to marry an American and that just maybe he might bring one home as his wife. He spoke about how the weather and how it wasn't really cold and that he only saw snow when his ship was further north. He said that he could only imagine what the weather was like in Lowell. He wrote what a grand and glorious day it would be when peace would be declared. He asked his uncle to give his regards to everyone, and that if he felt ambitious, to drop him a line. In a P.S. to his uncle, he said that his writing was shaky due to the vibration of the ship and that they were underway. He closed his letter with, "Your loving nephew, Jack." On March 25, 1918, his family received a telegram at their Manchester Street home from the Navy Department stating that their son's ship collided with a British warship on March 19th, and that their son, John J. O'Donnell, along with 15 other seamen, were reported as missing. Who knew that history would repeat itself 25 years later when John J. O'Donnell's nephew, First Lieutenant John J. Shaughnessy, named after his uncle, would lose his life in Normandy? John J. Shaughnessy was the son of Mr. and Mrs. Edward Shaughnessy, enlisted in the Army shortly after the sneak attack on Pearl Harbor. He was one of the first group of men that were taken into the Army under the provisions of the Selective Service Act of 1940. He was assigned to a military police unit based at Fort Banks in Winthrop. He was elected for Officers Candidate School at Fort Benning, Georgia, and after completion of his training, he led a platoon of infantry into North Africa. On April 29, 1943, he was wounded during the climatic struggle for Tunis, and later returned to his outfit on June 6, 1943. A few weeks later, he was awarded the Purple Heart, and in October, a year after being commissioned, he was promoted to the rank of First Lieutenant, the rank he held when he was killed on D-Day, June 6, 1944. while leading his men as they swarmed ashore in Normandy. At her 1091 Gorham Street home, Mrs. Edward Shaughnessy, his sister Annie, received the heart-numbing news of the death of her son, just as 25 years ago, a similar telegram announced the death of her brother, John J. O'Donnell. First Lieutenant John Shaughnessy left behind him his parents, a sister, Sister Anita of Buffalo, New York, a brother, Staff Sergeant Leo Shaughnessy of Texas. It seems that when a park, a school, or an area of our city receives a makeover, often people think that should also come a name change. I'm asking that the city dedicate and name this splash pad in honor of John Joseph O'Donnell, with whom the park was originally named. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. McCarthy. We appreciate that. A lot of very
Thank you, Mr.
informative-
Mayor.
Council Mercy.
There's nothing more to say. Carol did a spectacular job, and the history was very interesting. And I firmly believe that what was once there and named so should remain that way, and that's what she reinforced. So I will refer this to the Board of Parks and see if I have to do that. I'll be there anyway. We'll put it on the agenda so that it will be their decision to keep it that way. Thank you.
Motion to amend and send this to the Board of Parks as well by Council Mercy, second by Council Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Motion to approve as amended by Council Mercy, seconded by Council Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Request is to name the splash pad at former site of O'Donnell Park in honor of John J. O'Donnell. That goes to the Board of Parks. Council Mercy?
Yes, I'm sorry to do this again, but this will be the last time, since we're under suspension and the people are here, and I don't want to keep them here all night. If I could do the 10.2 request, the city manager have the proper department to enforce the zoning, traffic, and noise ordinances to address the issues on Main and Canada Streets, which are the vacant building, the 10-wheeler trucks that make these dust clouds, and they're dumping things, and this gentleman registered to speak.
Okay, motion to suspend by Council Mercy, second by Council Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. This next motion is by Council Mercy. Request city manager have proper departments enforce zoning and noise ordinances to address issues on Main and Canada Streets, i.e. vacant buildings, 10-wheeler traffic, dust clouds. Seconded by Council Milonazo.
Thank you.
On the motion, Councilor
Yes,
Mercia?
we have one gentleman registered to speak, Mark Plud.
Mr. Clerk?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Mark Plord. I live at 26 Main Street, and thank you, Rita, for doing this. About a year ago, I was here because of the Tanner Street development area, and there were a few things that were brought up there that we didn't care for, and our issues were addressed, and we were treated fairly. But we also brought up a bunch of other issues that we had been dealing with for some time. Dirt and dust, traffic, the noise, all odd hours of operation. We know we live next to a light industrial area, but the stuff we're putting up with is beyond light industrial. One night last week, we were up till 2:30 in the morning listening to 10-wheelers come down the road, dumping load after load after load. I don't know how we went from having used cars and auto mechanics to it being a dump site. It's not that we don't want these people to develop that area and use it. We want them to do it with some respect for the neighborhood. They're there at 5 o'clock in the morning banging pins into tailgates. They're loading trailers, they're loading trucks. We shouldn't have to deal with that on a daily basis. Every afternoon, we have to listen to them busting up scrap and everything else whatever they're doing there. The city did a great job last year of cleaning out all those buildings. We do not want to go back to the same condition we were in before. Unfortunately, some of the activity that's going on there is reminiscent of that. We're all for working together with them to develop and get that cleaned up. And if it's your land, you have a right to use it. But if you're using it, you need to take care of it. None of that property has been maintained. It has not changed at all in a year. Over the weekend, we met at my house, some of the neighbors, and we have to thank Sean Shanahan and Mike Damaris, and also Carol McCarthy came by, and Paul, the building inspector, to answer some of our questions. We keep asking why is nothing being done about this? And we're asking, we want you to give the building department the ability to enforce all the rules that they can to get this place cleaned up. If they're gonna rent that property out, they should be made to maintain it. We're the ones that suffer. Every time the trucks come in and out of there, it's a big cloud of dust. You know, we deal with it, the neighbors in back of us deal with it. If you come into our houses anytime and brush your hand along the counter, it's like sandpaper. And all the dirt is coming from that area. So that is basically what.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank
That
you,
was
Mark.
very good.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this gentleman said it all as well, but it's one thing to realize that you're in a neighborhood with truck traffic. We understand that. But when it's at 5 o'clock in the morning, there's a noise ordinance, that's not acceptable. And I would like, Mr. Manager, to have a follow-up on this. If there's a vacant building that is being used and not maintained, something's wrong there, so.
And we'd like to know what, you know, when permits are issued for that area, which everything I can find looks like it has to be issued by a special permit, we want to all be notified because we don't want to end up in the same condition where we were in before. And right at the moment, it seems to be heading back in that direction. Now, the building inspector has assured us he has a plan, and we've talked with him. We were very happy with the plans that he came up with. And we just want to make sure that he has the backing to go ahead and do this, to get these landowners who are not taking care of their property to do it. Because, you know, I pay my taxes, and maybe my house isn't the prettiest one on the street, but we keep it up.
Well, there is such a thing as quality of life, and that's all
Yes.
you're asking for.
And this small portion of that area is the only part that is only accessible through those neighborhoods. And
Well,
that is where,
it's in black and white on the agenda. The manager knows about it, so we'll do what we can to help you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you for coming out. Manager knows it and aware of it. We'll get on top of it. I'm sorry, for any other questions, comments on this motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, the motion carries. Mr. Manager, do you have one, while we're still under suspension, there's one appointment, there's an individual here, considering she serves on, and willing to serve and volunteer on a board, we motion to suspend and take this appointment out of order by Council Milanazzo, second by Council Rourke. This is item, sorry about that, 4.2. This is a communication from the city manager. It's an appointment of Kerry Hall to the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. So the motion, if I can just read the communication, Mayor Rodney Elliott, members of the City Council. This is regarding Lowell Memorial Auditorium, Board of Trustees, appointment thereto. Dear Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, pursuant to the authority under Chapter 148 of the Acts of 1919 as amended by Chapter 427 of the Acts of 1983, it is with pleasure that effective July 1st, I am appointing Kerry A. Hall of 73 Elcott Street, Lowell, Massachusetts, to membership on the Board of Trustees of the Lowell Memorial Auditorium to a term expiring June 30th, 2020. Ms. Hall will be replacing Thayer Eastman, whose term would have ended June 30th, 2017. Confirmation by the City Council is required. Pardon me. As is hereby requested, I'll be happy to answer any inquiry you may have concerning this appointment. I've attached her resume for her review. So, Mr. Manager, this is a veteran's appointment, correct? Okay. If you could.
Yes, this is the veterans appointment to the Memorial Board of Trustees. You know, as you can, I'm really proud to bring in this appointment. As you can see from Mrs. Hall's resume, she's a very, very active community member. teacher in the Lowell Public School System, a member of a Board of Health, but really proud to say that she is a veteran of the armed forces, and she actually, as you can see, spent a year in Iraq as part of her duty. So I'm proud of this appointment, and I really hope that the City Council adopts my recommendation.
Further discussion?
Move approval.
Move approval by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Roll call.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counselor Leahy.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes, and thank you for your service.
Counselor Milonazo.
Yes.
Counselor Rourke.
Yes.
Counselor Samaras.
Yes.
Counselor Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
9 yeas, motion passed, unanimous approval. Ms. Hall, we thank you very much for your service. We thank
Thank
you
you.
for serving the city. The podium is yours.
I am Carrie Hall. I live at 73 Alcott Street, and I thank the city manager for appointing me to this position. I am a teacher at the Pine Arts School, which is the arts school of Lowell, so it's quite an honor to be teaching at the arts school and also be able to sit on the board at the auditorium. And I just thank you for allowing me to sit on the board.
Thank you. We thank you for coming tonight. We didn't want to keep you here all night, as has been alluded to
Appreciate it.
earlier, knowing that you'll be at many more other meetings, so thank you. With that, we'll move on to the, back to the regularly scheduled part of the agenda. We have minutes from unless there are any other requests for suspension? No? Okay, we'll go to the city clerk. We have minutes from the city council meeting of June 23rd. We also have minutes from the Parks and Recreation Subcommittee, also on June 23rd, for acceptance. Motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor Belanger. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. That motion carries. Minutes are accepted and placed on file. Moving on to Section 3, under the City Auditor. We have a communication from the Auditor introducing UMass Lowell intern Bailey Young. With that, I'd like to refer to the City Auditor. Madam Auditor?
Mr. Mayor and City Councilors, I just wanted to take a minute to introduce you to, you got to go up to the podium.
Yeah, come on up, Bailey. Don't be shy.
I just wanted to introduce you to an exceptional intern that has been working in my office for the past few months. Bailey Young is a UMass Lowell. She just completed her freshman year in the accounting department. The UMass Accounting Department has an internship scholarship program only for exceptional students where they place them in local businesses to learn how the accounting and the finance departments work. The program is fully funded by UMass Lowell, is no cost to the city, which we love. This was the first year that my office has been able to take advantage of this, and I definitely plan to do it in the future, although as I've told Bailey, she has set the bar very high for the next intern. I just wanted to publicly thank her for all the work that she's done in my office. Having her here during this tremendously busy time of year for our office has just been, a blessing. Not only has she been an exceptional worker, she is also just a pleasure to have around. She's jumped in everything we've given her, caught on exceptionally quickly. I think every person in my office has approached me and said, isn't there any way that we can keep her? So everybody's going to miss her tremendously. I think she's here through close to the end of July because they only give us 10 weeks with her. But anyway, I just wanted to thank her for everything and to introduce her to the council.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Auditor. Bailey, do you have any words of wisdom for us here in the City Council chamber?
I would just like to thank everyone, especially Hannah and my colleagues. Everyone's been so welcoming, and it's been such a great opportunity, and it's great to see the inner workings of Lowell, especially going to UMass Lowell. And my aunt actually went to UMass Lowell, so she's like, Lowell has just grown and grown and grown, so I just want to thank everyone for everything, and it's been so great.
Excellent. Well, we thank you. We thank you for coming from UMass Lowell to provide some assistance to the city. I hope you learned a lot. I think it's a great program, having interns come and participate. And we thank you. We wish you well, and hope you'll come back.
Thank you.
Great. Again, thank you. Something we got from UMass Lowell that we didn't have to pay for. Well, I want to let the Chancellor know that. Wonderful. Moving on to communications. We have motion responses, A through I. Why don't we start with any comments, questions for the manager on motion response? A, alumni field repairs.
Mr. Mayor, just the scoreboard, the repairs to the scoreboard, that's on track, right? It says be done by the end of the month.
Mr. Manager?
Yes, it is. It's a purchase order, and we're having someone come in to determine exactly what's wrong, and then we'll fix it.
Okay, thanks.
Moving on to any other questions on motion response A? Seeing none, we'll move on to motion response B, Lowell Folk Festival City Gateway Cleanup. Mr. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to thank the manager for addressing this abruptly. I was coming down Thorndike Street the other day, and the crews working on the gateway in the fields, and they are very steep, and their crews are working very, very hard, and I would like to give a thank you to them, too, as well. I know the city will be looking good come next weekend for the Lowell Folk Festival. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Further questions or comments on motion response B? Seeing none, we'll move on to motion response C, report on school repairs during summer 2015. Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. I just have one quick question. I know some of this has been done, the electrical stuff's done. I just had a request that at the freshman academy, it says, if time allows. I don't know if they mean for everything or just part of it, but that's where this motion for me really started from, so I'd like to make sure that we kept up with the floors and the walls, and now it's time for the doors and the rails to really get done. So if we can hopefully keep that on track and make sure we get that done, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Keeping in line with school repairs, there's another entity that takes place when you talk about school and maintenance, and it isn't all inside. Sometimes it's outside, and I know that John Cooper has a lot of work with the crosswalks and things like that, but it came to my attention that some of the schools in their parking lot, the lines are not addressed, especially the one at the Stocklosa School, and I've asked like a year ago to see if they would fix the lines, and they haven't. School isn't in, you don't know where you're parking, so that would be great.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Manager?
Yes, Assistant City Manager McGovern told me it's going to be taken care of. It's already talked to the proper person. It will be done immediately.
They'll be hooting and howling. They're so excited to hear that on the TV, so thank you very much.
Further questions on motion response C? Seeing none, we'll move on to D, questions on street sign replacement. Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. Through you to the manager. So I read the response, and basically, it seems like it's kind of if it's reported, we replace them. Do you think we could try to establish something where, we all see it on our way home. Some of the signs, the problem is too, one side's really burnt out and the other side's good. So I don't know if there's a solution to that, if the whole sign has to be, I don't know what they do with those, if they redo the whole sign after, and replace it or whatever, but could we look into maybe trying to set up some sort of a system where we could go out and go section of the city by section of the city over the years? So this year it could be whatever, say the Highlands, and the street sign department would kind of take a look at major roads and replace them. Instead of waiting for us to call them in, we know there's a handful that need to be replaced. And I know it comes down to time and money, but to wait for people to call them in doesn't usually work. And where we're trying to really do this, improve the image, maybe we could try to look at something and set up a system where we go neighborhood by neighborhood, section of the city by section of the city over the years, and kind of maintain our own street signs versus waiting people to call them in.
Mr. Manager?
We actually have that system right now. We've already done Pawtucketville and Centerville. They're up to date, and they're now working in Belvedere. So I'll just get a further update as far as what we're doing for all the neighborhoods in the future. But we do each neighborhood as we can, but we'll follow up with that. Yep.
Do we have any idea how many signs we're talking about, generally speaking, throughout the city? Mr. Manager or Mr. McGovern?
10,000 signs across the city.
All right. Further questions on the street signs? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next motion response, which is motion response E, status on update on Branch Street property, petition responses. Question, Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I want to commend you on such a great motion. I know you're very concerned after being on hand that tragic day approximately a year ago, that you don't want to see history repeat itself. I know that for a fact. But there is such a thing as a grandfather clause that we have little control over, and this owner is entitled to rebuild with any year under the same number of units. But Mr. Mayor, I guess this would be to you, then perhaps you can spearhead at least, the very least, work with the property owner for a memorial, if you will, for those who passed on that horrific day. So
Okay.
I think that might be appropriate, seeing we can't have no control over much else. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, I think that makes a lot of sense. We'll do that. Any other questions on motion response E? Seeing none, we'll move on to petition response F, update on the resident request for truck exclusion on East Merrimack and Fayette. Councilor Lay, then Councilor Malinazzo.
All right, thank you. So I read this report, and I still have a concern over Fayette Street, and I understand everything you told me last time. I did check on it a little bit. I was just wondering if we were gonna file a request for Fayette Street under Section 10A to exclude them, because I still think that, in my opinion, those trucks, if they're gonna, and it doesn't seem to be happening as much, but some of them still go down one more street, and they're running over the sidewalk, and it's obviously more residential down that street. So I would really like to see if we could put a push to stop the trucks from going down Fayette Street.
Mr. Manager?
I don't think they need to be going down there.
So we have to petition the Department of Transportation. And there has to be a certain percentage in order to be successful. And we don't come close to that percentage. We could petition for it to be excluded, but I'm just cautioning everybody that the chances of the success are not good. But if you want us to petition it, we will certainly
I just
petition.
thought with the factors of them driving over the sidewalk, and it can be dangerous, because if somebody's coming the other way, pedestrian traffic, even though it's one way.
Sure.
Someone could get hurt. And then just, what they do here, what we're gonna have them do with the engine braking, not doing that. They're doing that right in front of the housing when they come out to Andover Street. So they're kind of doing the same thing that we're gonna prohibit them from doing at High Street at the end of Fayette Street. So, I mean, it's worth a shot. If we could at least petition it, if it goes through, it goes through, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. Thank you.
Councilor Malinazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. I appreciate the information, and I think it's a good step moving forward, doing the engine braking prohibition, if you will. But my question has to do with Councilor Samaras had a motion on a couple of weeks ago regarding the realignment of Andover and Nesmith Street. I guess my question has to do with, can we make sure that whatever realignment ends up taking place, that these trucks can actually make that turn off of Nesmith Street going westbound down Andover Street? Because I think the reason they're cutting through now is because they can't make that right-hand turn from Nesmith Street onto Andover Street. So again, since that was a motion by Councilor Samaras, I think if we follow that up and make sure that we have enough turning radius, it'll probably alleviate this problem on East Merrimack Street and Fayette Street.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you.
We'll make sure that we incorporate that into the plan.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further questions on this motion response? Seeing none, we'll move on to motion response G, parking restrictions on Nottingham Street. Questions on this motion? Seeing none, we'll move on to motion response.
Well, could I, Mr. Mayor and G?
I'm sorry, Councilor Martin?
So what are we going to do? Are we moving forward to adopt the ordinance amendment?
Mr. Manager?
There's a vote on
Is this on the Nottingham Street?
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is, if one of the councilors would do a motion to refer it to me, I'd like to ensure that the residents have reserved parking in the in the Family Dollar lot, not only at nighttime, but during the day if necessary, because I think it might be an imposition on the residents, and if we could work out that condition with Family Dollar, I think that this would be a good idea.
All right. I move that we refer this report back to the manager for further report and recommendation.
Motion by Council Martin,
Second.
second by Council Mercy to refer item response, motion response on Nottingham Street back to the city manager for report and recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Move on to
Your Honor,
Council.
can I just make a comment on that? I think that's a great idea, good suggestion, because I wasn't too sure about that. I did follow up and kind of check that out, but I was kind of hesitant, so that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Further comments on motion response G, petition response? Seeing none, we'll move on to
Mr. Mayor,
Council Mercia.
on this particular, are we, no, I'm talking about H, I'm sorry.
Okay, moving on to petition response H, Council Mercia, stop sign at Eugene and Woburn Street, informational reports.
Well, as you all know, this was a petition or a motion by a resident, Rita Souza, who had more motions on the agenda than any one of us here, which was okay, but there is a response here that they're going to replace the existing 24-inch stop sign with a larger 30-inch stop sign and also paint a 12-inch stop bar across the pavement. Now, we know that. Does Rita Souza know that?
If she's watching tonight, she knows it.
But if she isn't, is she going to know
Mr.
about it?
Manager?
We'll reach
Yes.
out and let her know about the plans that they have.
If-
Nick,
if
does
they
she know
take-
about it? Or?
The sign has already been replaced and the stripe has already been painted.
Does this woman know that?
I'll reach out to her.
Okay, because I think if they're taking the time to put a petition and we're following up on it, maybe she doesn't live on that street, maybe she lives in the neighborhood and didn't know that, so they should be notified. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
She is on Eugene Street. Moving on to next, motion response, informational customer service survey. Motion response, aye. Any questions? Seeing none.
Hey.
Council Martin?
So I just think it's a good effort by the administration to seek this kind of feedback, so I applaud the effort, so.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further comments on any of the motion responses, A through I? Seeing none, motion to accept.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Samaras.
I'd like to request a suspension of the rules to review 2 motion responses from the previous meeting.
Motion to suspend by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor Rourke, to discuss 2 motions from the previous meetings, 2 motion responses. Can you state those, Councilor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
What are the 2?
The first one was the constructing of a railroad bridge connecting Weston Avenue and Dutton Street.
Okay.
And it was a good report, and it spoke to the building of a bridge to cross the railroad tracks. And that bridge would cost approximately $1.5 million. Anytime you mention the word bridge, the price goes up quite a bit. And that is a logical plan. However, when I made this motion, the issue that I was bringing up was the opening up of Weston Avenue. At present, Weston Avenue is used by the people of the Weston Avenue Studios to cross the tracks to get to the Dunkin' Donuts. It's basically an illegal walk. At this point, I do not want to see the railroad company doing anything to stop them. But the thing is, I do believe that something can be done, and I'd like to ask the city manager if he could review this matter and look at other alternative plans to do something. It could be a walkway. I mean, there are many other ways of doing it, or actually opening up the road itself from what it was in the early 50s. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Manager?
Yes, I'm going down there myself to look at the situation, scope out what we can do, and then contact the train, the railroad, and make sure, see if there's something we can do to effectuate something to allow for that pedestrian walkway, or whatever.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I mean, I know it's not going to be an easy task, But when we talk about the Western Avenue Studios and the Thorndike Dutton Street renewal, Hamilton Mills, this is part of the package, and we have to do something to ensure that the Western Avenue Studios are included in this package. Thank you. The other motion, and that Councilor Milanazzo talked about it a little bit, the report on the, given by the traffic engineer on the intersection of Nesmith Street and Andover Street was well done, but it speaks to how dangerous the street or the intersection really is. And Councilor Milanazzo brought up another issue why this should be looked into. But it talks about a 2017 date. You have the report from the state stating clearly that it's a dangerous intersection and that all the plans are there to redevelop that intersection. I wonder, Mr. Manager, is there any way to expedite this? I know it's a fixed plan, but I think by the nature of what it is, it should be looked into. Thank you.
Mr. Manager, do you have a response?
We're already started planning and going to implement the improved traffic signalization. The wider thing is we're going to try and expedite, find money, but it's mostly going to be funded by the state, so we're trying to push them to get the funding to do the complete overhaul. But we will expedite it as best we can.
I mean, your experience with the state, is there a reasonable chance for that to be done, do you think?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussions? Motion to refer these, or request additional information on these on both of these items by Councilor Samaras, second by Councilor Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Did we accept all the motion responses? Okay, so we did not accept the motion responses. Entertain a motion to accept the responses provided by the manager and place on file by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Moving on to 4.2 that we already took up. Moving on to 4.3. We have a communication to reappoint Joan Bedford and Andrew Hostetler to the Council on Aging. Motion to approve by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Belanger. Roll call.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Yes.
Councilor Rourke.
Yes.
Councilor Samaras.
Yes.
Councilor Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
9 yeas, motion passes. Next one is also a communication. This is a reappointment of John D. Corrigan to the Hunger Homeless Commission. Motion to approve by Councilor Kennedy, second by Councilor Belanger. Motion to accept and place on file. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. He is reappointed to the Hunger Homeless Commission by the manager. Moving on to 4.5 is a communication to accept the reappointment of Peter Finnegan to the Board of Parks. Motion to approve by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Leahy. Discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Yes.
Councilor Rourke.
Yes.
Councilor Samaras.
Yes.
Councilor Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas. Next item on the agenda is another communication, that's to accept the resignation of Eleanor Belanger from the Council on Aging.
Move to accept.
Move to accept by Councilor Kennedy, second by Councilor Martin. Roll call. Oh, no roll call, excuse me. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. The communication is accepted and placed on file. Next item on the agenda, we have another communication. That's to accept the resignation of James Diamond from the Lowell Cultural Council.
Move to accept.
Move to accept by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion, resignation is accepted and placed on file. Moving on to 4.8, there's another communication from the city manager. This is to request a reappointment of Brian Toner and Louisa Barnum to the Conservation Commission. Councilor Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to recognize the service of Louisa Varnum. I served on the Conservation Commission for about 7 or 8 years, I think, from 93 to 2000. And when I joined the commission, Louisa Varnum was on it then. And I think at that time, she had been the longest-serving member then, some 20-plus years ago. So Conservation Commission meetings, often twice a month, sometimes go 10, 11 o'clock at night or later. And she's been doing this all those years. I don't know Mr. Toner. I'm sure his service has been admirable as well. But she's been there a long, long time, done great work. So I think it was worthy of some recognition.
Thank you, Council. I agree. I think it goes without saying all of the site visits that they also have to conduct in their own time throughout the week on all of these projects. So I think it's an admirable mention by far. Thank you. Further mention, comments? This motion to approve, to accept and place on file by Council Martin, second by Council Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. Motion carries. And the appointment is accepted and placed on file. Next communication from the city manager is a request for out-of-state travel, one for MIS, two for Lowell Police Department. Motion to approve by Council Samaras, second by Council Rourke. Comments, questions? Roll call.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Martin.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas. Approved. Moving on to section 5, we have votes from the city manager. First vote is to authorize the city manager to pay bills from prior years. Entertain a motion to, well, I'll just read it. It's not a long communication. In city councils, in order to appropriate $23,312.50 of surplus DPW funds from fiscal year 2015 to satisfy unpaid invoices from the prior fiscal year pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 64, by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: the amount of $23,312.50 be appropriated to satisfy unpaid invoices from prior fiscal year. Order recommended, introduced by City Manager Kevin Murphy. Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Now, Mr. Manager, this seems to be for unpaid police details. Is that who's delinquent here?
Mr. Manager or
Sure,
Mr.
it's more
Baldwin?
than one. But
Mr. Baldwin.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Belanger. These are actually internal invoices from the police details for public works projects. So it's the Public Works Department paying the police details.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Council. Further questions on this authorization? Council Leahy?
Sure. So could you just elaborate on, like, what system's gonna be in place now to prevent this? Because I heard that there's a little bit of, on both sides, accounting ways maybe, accounting means, so we, somebody wants the bills one way so they can look them up, someone says this is good enough, and they go years unpaid, so.
And I think it's well stated in the response that this validates this council's creation of a deputy director for administration and finance in the Department of Public Works, because these are really routine transfers that should have been made. It's not rocket science, but it just shows the need for a much better management of the of finances in the Department of Public Works. And once we get the deputy director who we've advertised for, I believe things like this won't be happening in the future, because they will be making sure that these transfers are done properly.
Okay. Does it reflect anything from the accounting from the police department side too, though? Will they'll have a new system maybe?
Mr. Baldwin?
When I asked a few questions, everybody said it's not clear from this department, it's not clear from that department, so I just want to make sure, I guess, we clarify from both sides.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so right, there's, as you mentioned, Councilor, there's a couple of issues at play, and one was a new invoicing system from the police department. So they've improved on their side the ability to invoice departments outside private details, as well as our internal details for the public works construction project. So they were able to enhance their ability to bill, but the public works department was just somewhat slower to create their process to verify all of those bills. So we're just sort of catching up. And as the manager just mentioned, the advertisement for the position of the Deputy Commissioner for Administration and Finance will help in advancing those initiatives and streamlining the process on all fronts.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Okay, motion to approve by Counsel Martin, seconded by Counsel Leahy. Roll call.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
9 yeas. Motion carries. Moving on to the next item, we are on 5.2. This is a vote. This is for transfer of $19,800 to various accounts. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. Second reading by title, Commonwealth of Massachusetts City of Lowell City Council is a vote to transfer $19,800 to balance various accounts pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 33B. Questions on the transfers? Seeing none, motion to approve by Council Samaras, seconded by Council Milonazo. Roll call.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
9.
9 yeas. Transfer is approved. Move on to the next item. We're on Section 6 now. We're on the orders from the city manager. First item, 6.1, is an order for a 60-day trial of various locations. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. Motion passes. Second reading by title. And City Council is an order pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. These are for White Street, Lewis Street, and Broadway Street West. Comments, questions? Move approval by Council Martin, second by Council Leahy. Roll call.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas. Motion passes. Order is adopted. Oh, okay. So next item is an ordinance. This is to amend Chapter 266-85. This is regarding Nottingham Street that we just referred to the city manager. It's parking prohibited during certain hours. So we're going to give the motion a first reading and refer this to the city manager by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. This ordinance is, this on Nottingham? No, okay. Motion, this referred to the city manager for report and recommendation. Next item, we have reports. We have subcommittee, if there are any. Seeing none, there is one report from the wire inspector regarding,
Mr. Mayor.
Council Mercia.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have a subcommittee report, but there is a dedication on Sunday, July 19th at 11 o'clock in the morning to Ray and Dave Robinson. It'll be at the corner of Jackson and Central Street for the dedication on the Robinson Island. There's 2 signs that will be unveiled, and I know that many people in the community have gone to his business at the corner of Jackson Street and Central, and he has many friends in the city. They probably don't have this notice, so if they know of people that would like to be there, that's why I'm announcing it tonight. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Councilor. Thank you for bringing this to our attention as well as to the office. I did try to, we got an email out to members of the council and to try to let people know that this is taking place.
you.
It's the family that's organizing this, correct, Councilor
Yes,
Mercia?
the family, like Dave Robinson's daughter and family
Right.
live outside of the city. His wife, Jill, lives in Centerville, but the relatives live outside of the city, but they're all going to be here for a wedding, so this was an appropriate time to have it. So
Okay.
Commissioner Bellegarde is aware of it, and so we have it going on. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. As we mentioned, there's a wire inspector, there's a National Grid, it's a request for an installation of electric conduit at 3071 Wilder Street. Mr. Clerk, were there some other additions to this?
Yes, there was, Mr. Mayor. There's just some additional language that was put into the order, and I just wanted to make the body aware of it. It went through, the city engineer had signed off on it, and the law department had looked at it as well, so.
Okay, entertain a motion to accept and adopt the accompanying order by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor O'Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion passes. The order is adopted. Moving on to the next section, Section 9, we have petitions. Number of petitions this evening. The first one is for claims. There are 3 claims for property. Entertain a motion by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Belanger, to refer to the Lottery Department for a report and recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion passes. Next motion of the evening is a miscellaneous petition by Peter Hunya.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no objection, if we could take the 3 miscellaneous motions, 9.2, 9.3, and 9.4, bundle them together, and I'll refer them to the proper department.
Motion by Councilor Kennedy to take items 9.2, 9.3, and 9.4 together. Seconded by Councilor Belanger. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion carries. Motion to refer these to the Law Department for report and recommendation by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Belanger. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion carries. These 3 items are referred to the Law Department. Move on to item 9.5. This is a petition from National Grid and Verizon New England, requests relocation of 2 poles at Schaefer Street. This requires a public hearing to be set for the council meeting on July 28th at 7 p.m. Excuse me, motion by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion passes as well. Public hearing on the 28th. This brings us to the next section, Section 10, City Council motions. 10.1, the first motion on the City Council motions by Councilor Martin, requests City Manager present to the City Council a proposed process and timetable to select a master developer for Hamilton Canal District. Seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. Councilor Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, really just trying to see where you are with this and get your plan for going forward. I know there's not been a shortage of work around here. I know we had a busy spring with the budget and busy winter with the snow, but it has been some time since Trinity announced it was withdrawing. So I think it's time, and I know you've been working on this for some time, so I don't think this should come as a surprise to anybody, this motion, but I do think it's important that the council keep this issue front and center and just see what your proposals are for this so we can move forward with this, very important project for the city.
Mr. Manager?
Yes, we just put the final touches on the RFP. I'm going to be presenting it to the City Council at the next meeting for review and comment, and then we will issue the RFP immediately to select a master developer for the area. Okay. So it'll be next City Council, you will have the RFP.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Further comments, questions? Councilor Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to commend Councilor Martin for this motion, keeping this project on the front burner. That's great news. But through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager now, do you have in the plan, Mr. Manager, to give tours to potential interested parties, if you will?
Mr. Manager?
Yes, what we plan to do is, once we issue the request for proposal, we'll also have an invitation for a general tour of any interested parties to come to the area, and we'll give a complete tutorial on the Hamilton Canal District.
Okay, great. Well, that's great news, because as chair of the Economic Development Subcommittee, I would like you to include the city council on these tours, at least an invite. And there is nothing wrong with that. It's not a we are allowed to be there as salesmen. That's not a conflict or an issue. There's frequently 4 or 5 of us at neighborhood group meetings all the time. So just for salesman purposes, I'd like to be there. I know I'd like to be there. I'm sure my colleagues have the same sentiment. So please extend an invite, Mr. Manager. Thank you.
Further question, comments on this motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed? Motion passes. Next motion of the evening by Councilor Rourke. Request city manager have proper department conduct a parking meter audit of all meters to establish which meters work properly and which meters need repairs. Seconded by Council Samaras. Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Most of the meters are the downtown ones, the ones that use, I guess, the satellites or the GPS. And working downtown and walking that often, I have seen one of the major problems, I guess, is the military time difference, where, you know, the meter says it's military time, but then in the real time, people are still getting tickets, even though they have the paid ticket on them. So I'm sure it's hopefully something that can be very easily adjusted, but currently now it is a problem that I think that some people are running into. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Further comments on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion passes. Next motion of the evening, we're on to 10.5 by Council Rourke. Request city manager report if bidders on city-issued RFPs on public projects are required to use a certain percentage of Lowell residents in its workforce. Seconded by Councilor Milonazo. Council Rourke.
You guys speak on this subject, Mr. Clerk?
I'm in Hebert, 499 Wilder Street. I think this is a great motion, Councilor Rourke. I spoke with him maybe once or twice about it. You know, I spoke to a bunch of the councilors here. In the construction business here in Lowell, it's going to be booming in the next few years. We really got to get Lowell residents working on these jobs too. There's just a lot of jobs going on right now, and I go on these jobs, and the Lowell residents, there's hardly any, maybe 1, 2 jobs. I am a member of a union, and I self-imposed myself as a residency clause. I tell my union BA, I want to work in Lowell. I don't want to travel. I've been doing this almost 30 years. I've traveled all over the East Coast, working for different companies, stuff like that. We've got enough work in Lowell here to keep residents in the town. Because if they stay in the town, they're gonna build the town. They're gonna spend their money. This money we're sending out over different states, different counties. I mean, you go to other cities and towns. You go to Boston. If I go to Boston, I've worked there in the past, I've got to fill out a 3-page thing explaining why I want to work in Boston and I'm not a resident. Their residency clause is so strict up there, they got to have at least 50% of the people on the job from Boston. And that's a lot of workforce that they're keeping the revenue that those people are making in Boston. They're keeping it in Boston. Right now in Lowell, we are sending revenue out all over the Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire. All these people are coming down from Maine. They're traveling hours. I'm working with guys right now up here at Lowell that are traveling 2 hours to come here and make money. And you know what they're doing? They're getting back in their cars and they're going back to where they are. And that's where they're going to spend their money. And there's nothing wrong with that. The people got to work. But I think we really got to start sending our quality workers from Lowell out. I just came off jobs in Littleton, Wilmington. I said, you know what? I said, enough is enough. There's enough work here. I traveled. I'm done traveling. I think we should really put this into effect to keep Lowell residents here. I buy my pizza in Lowell. I buy all my food. I bought my shirt at Target. Mr. Leahy, you were asking, you know, but The thing is, that's where we gotta we gotta get these people staying in Lowell to where we've got qualified people, non-union and union. I am a union member. But if you understand this, these public projects, the pay is set. It's set by the prevailing wage law. And no matter what, a non-union company or a union company, they've got to pay that prevailing wage. If they don't pay that, that's breaking the law. Okay? So it doesn't matter if it's union or non-union, and we have the people in Lowell to do this, because you know what? They're traveling out because they can't get jobs. If we make it some type of stipulation, like other cities have, like I mentioned, Boston, Lawrence has it, Springfield has it. Why can't we have it here? We're just as big as Springfield, we're just as big as Lawrence, Worcester has it. There's a lot of towns and cities have a requirement for residency. Understand, especially the councilors here, would you like me to vote for somebody who lives out of town? Okay, you guys should want your work done by people who live in town, because I take pride in my work, and I want to see the work done right too, and I bet you there's a lot of other people in Lowell that want to see the same thing, and I think this is a great motion by Mr. Councilor Rourke, and I think everybody here should back it. I think it's a real good motion to try to keep Lowell residents working. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hewitt. On the motion, Councilor Rourke and then Councilor Mercia.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think one of the main points what Mr. Hewitt talked about was, 110,000 people in the city. There's more than enough talented members of the workforce that can do these jobs. Actually, when I thought the motion, I did look at the Boston ordinance of how they do it. Hopefully, when we do get a response, someone similar can be adopted here in Lowell. And again, to most the points that Mr. Hebert spoke of, I think are valid with regards to this motion. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council. Council Mercia.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support this motion 100%. I remember many years ago, my husband was in the union as well. They had the prevailing wage law. Mr. Hebert is absolutely right. 33% of the workforce had to be made up of residents in the city of Lowell. So I remember that. Now, that has been many years ago, so maybe now it is more than 33%, but I'm thinking that if they have it in Boston and other places, I don't know why we don't have it here. Everything that Mr. Hebert said was right on the money. I remember that. Some years ago, I made this motion as well. I don't know whatever happened to it, but if we could, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager, look at this to see if we could instill this in the city of Lowell, that'd be great. We do have people that need jobs here in the city, and this is one way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Samar. I'm sorry, Councilor Samaras and Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. No, Councilor Rourke, this is a very good motion, because we're talking about the people of Lowell. The question I'd ask through the city manager to the city solicitor, do you see any problems with developing a residency requirement? I mean, I do know that they exist in Boston and many other major communities. What would we have to do?
Madam Solicitor.
We're certainly, we can certainly look and review the ordinance that exists in Boston. In the past, we have looked at this issue. I know that this has been the subject of litigation. Other communities have employed quotas, and the quotas have been struck down as violative in the federal courts. And communities that have had them and engaged in that litigation have also been responsible for the attorney's fees associated with those cases. But again, we're happy to take a look and continuing to take a look at this issue. It has been something that Councilor Mercier and Councilor Milanazzo have also brought up in the past, and we've looked at it in the past and will continue to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support the motion as well, and Mr. Hebert did make some great points, and I'll give an example. When the early garage on Middlesex Street was being constructed, I was in business pretty much in the shadows of this new garage, and I must have met 25, 30 men. The closest was, I believe, Burlington. These men were from all over Connecticut, Rhode Island, and it was, just, I don't want to see them do bad either, but it's kind of frustrating at the same time. as Mr. Hebert spoke to, we have more than enough qualified individuals here in the city. You know, we have some very large-scale pipeline projects in the pipeline this council is working very diligently on. You know, the potentially a new high school, a new judicial center, the Hamilton Canal project that we control, and we're going to be bidding out. Maybe we can include a resident partially a requirement there. That's maybe something we can control, but I think it's our duty to do all we can to keep these jobs local as much as we can control. So I do support it, and hopefully we can put some money in, these are high-paying jobs, and let's put it in the pocket of our residents to the best we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion passes. Next motion of the evening, again by Councilor Rourke, request city manager and property department explore the feasibility of installing a sidewalk on Pine Street between Westford Street and Princeton Boulevard. Second by Councilor Milonazo. Councilor Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we skip 10-6? Well, we can do 10-7 now. It's not a big deal.
Whoops, I skipped the page. 10-6. I'm sorry, let's go back to 10-6. Sorry about that, I checked it off. So this is 10.6, request city manager contact Mass Department of Transportation and request cleanup of VFW Highway from Hunts Falls Rotary to Rock Bridge. Second by Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, when you speak to the Department of Transportation on the other subject we talked about earlier tonight, you know, when you cut off the Hunts Falls Rotary and you come down into the city, either from the Drake Area, or even you come the other way from Tingsboro into Lowell, that stretch of the highway, it's a mess. I know it's over the years a lot of back and forth of is it city-owned, state-owned. We do know the state does own that property. A couple of major areas that of a real concern is actually the fence going from the Aiken Street Bridge down to the Bridge Street Bridge. There's many sections where the fence is off the posts. It's torn. Some areas where you can't even walk, even though, because of the weeds have turned into trees. And a big area in that area there. Also, where the guardrails are, in the middle of the island, there are also many instances where if you just drive down that area, you'll see actual weeds that have grown almost to like 10, 12-foot trees in that area. My neighbor actually cuts the grass, on some of the landing spots. So if we could do something to notify the state to come down and just clean up a bit. I know that the city does adopt the island on certain parts of it, which are beautiful. Certain people would pay to take care of it. But there's a huge section of that area between Hunts Falls and actually the Rock Bridge that really is, it gives a dirty look to the city on that side of the bridge. So anything that can be done to clean that up, I think would be most appreciative, not only to the residents that are in the city, but people that come into Lowell from neighboring towns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a real good motion. I think that one of the resources that maybe we don't utilize as much as possible would be the Sheriff's Department. And there might be some of that work that they might be able to, rather than to get into a contest about whose responsibility is with the Commonwealth, it might be just as easy to contact the Sheriff's Department and see if they can't do at least some portions of the work that Councilor Rourke's talking about.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion passes. Now we will move on to the next motion of the evening, again by Councilor Rourke. 10.7, Councilor Rourke requests city manager have proper department explore feasibility of installing a sidewalk on Pine Street between Westford and Princeton Boulevard. Second by Councilor Samaras. Councilor Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Over the past weekend, I was invited to someone's home on Alyssa Drive, where I met a number of residents from Pine Street, a couple from Westford, and then multiple residents from Alyssa Drive. And they spoke about the request for a sidewalk that connects Westford to Princeton Boulevard. When you look at it, there's actually a berm that's there now, which I imagine is to keep water out when it does rain. There does seem to be a dirt area before yards start. It's a little more than 100 yards. My goal would be to be on both sides of Pine Street going down, at the very least maybe on one side. When you get down towards the Princeton Boulevard area, there's actually cars that are parked up on, the sidewalk or the area that should be a sidewalk. So it does create a public safety hazard, and also it just looks lousy. So they had asked to bring this forward to see if the possibility, the feasibility of putting a sidewalk in. A couple of the families had young children that they did tell me they go for walks a lot, and they have to actually be out in the street when they do that connection. So any insight, that would be terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on that motion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion carries. Next motion of the evening. Council Rourke requests City Manager have proper department clean up the property located at 603 West Chelmsford Street. Seconded by Council Leahy. Council Rourke.
Last one, Mr. Mayor. So this is a property, obviously, that is well known in that area. It's a very large house. I actually can't see the house anymore because of the brush and the trees that are there. So it speaks for itself. Anything that can be done to clean that up, I think, would be an asset to the community.
Thank you, Council. I know exactly which one you're talking about. I think there's a property ownership change. But it's a good motion, Council. Mr. Manager.
This council did vote to convey it to the highest bidder, but their lawyer came up with a purported title issue, which we don't believe there's a title issue, and we're ready to convey the property. And if they don't accept title to the property, we're going to move on to the next person, just to make sure that it gets sold and cleaned up. So we are well aware of it. We have been working on the title issue, and we're ready to convey.
Council.
Yeah. In the meantime, Mr. Manager, is there a way to just get over there to kind of clean up a little bit if that doesn't happen?
Mr. Manager, is there a time frame associated with moving on to the second bidder?
If we're ready, willing, and able to convey, and they don't want to accept, then we'll move on immediately.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. And in the meantime, we'll get the property cleaned up. Further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion carries. The next motion, 10.10, by Council Kennedy, request City Manager provide City Council with a semi-annual report regarding downtown vacancies and leasing activities. Seconded by Council Leahy. Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the City Manager. Mr. Manager, as you know, this is, well, maybe as you don't know, but it's required by statute that the City Manager give a report periodically, twice a year actually, to the City Council on the state of the downtown. And so this really is just a reminder motion that it might be time to do that again. And so if we can just get a report, it would be nice if we could get into the habit of getting a report like that from the manager's office every 6 months. But so anyways, again, this is just a reminder motion that it's probably time to provide the City Council with a report along those lines.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on this motion? Council Leahy.
Thank you. Through you to the manager. It's a good motion. I talked to Councilor Kennedy about this because last week I was driving through downtown and I noticed that the Empire hair salon's going out of business, and it was kind of a surprise, and there's just a little notice on the window. So I realize it's probably nothing we could have done, but these reports would be helpful. Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Yes, that came as a surprise to us also, but, they just notified us they closed overnight. That's actually a chain of beauty schools, and they closed 4 or 5 across the Commonwealth. So it wasn't just closing in Lowell, it was their business that closed throughout the Commonwealth. So, but we are working on trying to find a new owner for the building, so that report will be forthcoming.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Further questions, comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion passes. Next motion of the evening is 10.11 by Council Kennedy. Request City Manager take necessary steps to have Lowell join Next Century Cities and provide Council with a report on benefits of joining that coalition. Seconded by Council Belanger. Council Kennedy?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This motion was really in response to an email that I think was sent to every city council regarding the next century cities and suggesting that Lowell get involved in that. They have a website, and there are over 100 communities, I guess, across the country that belong to this coalition, several from Massachusetts, including Boston, New Bedford, and Chicopee. And there might be a couple of others that escape me right now. But it just seems to me that, and I think they're dedicated to a lot of different things, but I think that one of the benefits seems to be sharing information on how to make sure that, that Lowell has broadband service that is fast and efficient and stays that way. And there are some communities that only have Comcast to deal with. So maybe there would be, I know from time to time on this city council, it's come up whether or not maybe it would be good if there was more than Comcast, and the response that we've got is, well, nobody else will do it for us. But it seems to me that it might be worthwhile for the city to at least join this coalition, if only for the exchange of ideas with other cities.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, the motion carries. The next motion of the evening by Council Leahy. City Manager have proper department repair road from 671 Barnum Avenue to Topman Road. Second by Council Martin. Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. Last week we had, or last meeting, shouldn't say last week. Last meeting we had talked about this stretch of road. So if we could have someone go out there, I know that the engineer was here and said that they'd like to do the whole road, but it's getting to the point where it's opening up in different sections, so there's gotta be a way we can repair that. And it's, you know, it starts basically from 670, it clears up and it starts again, so if we could look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Further questions? Councilor Rourke?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, right now, aren't they doing that right now? I drove by this morning, I thought I saw Varnum Ave dug up. Are they gonna go that far down the other way?
This is in front of Mr. Mayor, this is in front of the, sort of the Lori Lane to Topman area. That is, right, the stretch you're talking about is from Lowell General, actually from VFW up to about 400. Lowell General is 375, right, Council? So it's
Sure, how
not
far
that
they go down.
stretch.
Okay.
Right. Mr. Manager?
Yes, we're well aware of this area, and there's a lot of work being done on Varnum Ave, but this is a major, major undertaking, and we're looking into getting the funds to do those, because we want to do it right. It doesn't do any good to do just patchwork. It has to be done right, the trenching and everything, so we are working on it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think it's good because during the winter, it's a utility line and it heaves and it is, I mean, it really is elevated,
Well,
so.
it's at the point now too where bicycle tires are gonna get stuck in there, and then if it widens up anymore, we'll be talking, you know, small motorcycle bikes, and so, it's definitely, you know, a hazard for bikers right now, so, thank you.
Thank you, Council. Further comments, questions on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion passes. Next motion of the evening by Council Leahy. Request City Manager update City Council as to the progress with Mark I Company on Sprague Avenue. Second by Council Martin. Council Leahy?
Thank you. This motion speaks for itself. I know you're working on that, but I was just looking for an update. I know they're probably stubborn out there, but the neighborhood would appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Manager?
You're 100% correct. I drive by there all the time. We met with the owner and their lawyer and Mr. Slagle last year, and quite honestly, I don't think they've done anything. So I'm instructing Mr. Slagle to take over and make sure that it's cleaned up, because it looks terrible in the on Swan Street side, on the Swan Street side especially. Yeah.
All those, further comments on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Next motion of the evening by Council Leahy. Request City Manager update Council regarding conventions and major events happening in the city of Lowell. Seconded by Council Kennedy. Council Leahy?
Thank you. if anybody's been downtown lately, you notice the great, the crowds and the restaurants are busy and the streets are bustling. There was a good article in the Lowell Sun a few days ago that the manager had commented, so I don't know where we are with this or how, if we can get reports from the Songus Arena, but, and I know that you're on top of it, but it'd be nice to get a report and make sure that everybody's in sync, you know? Like you were saying, the restaurants are gonna be busy, the shops, police department, hotels, everything and everybody. So, I mean, what a great time it is when we have these conventions. And just hundreds and probably thousands of people just walking through the city. So, and it was great. We had good police presence. Shops were busy. We got emails from businesses downtown telling us what a great time it was. So lots happening. Thank you.
Councilor Belanger?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Excellent motion by Councilor Leahy. What Councilor Leahy is referring to is in early July, there was a rather large convention made up of two different parties. It was called the Congress of Future Medical Leaders. They were in for approximately 3 to 4 days. They left, and then the Congress of Future Scientists rolled in. And these two groups were just phenomenal. It was high school graduates, on the high school level, accompanied by parents. And the convention was at the Songus Arena. And this was just an absolute boom for all of downtown. The eateries on Monday and Tuesday, there were lines to get in and eat on Mondays, and which is unheard of. So this is extremely valuable. I've been to most of these businesses. They are raving about this. So in turn, I reached out to the Songus Arena. And by the way, they were very good in regards to communicating to business, letting them know that they were coming. I don't think anybody expected what we got, which was more than what we all expected. But Katrina, her name is coordinator of the Songus Arena. She emailed all businesses. We were aware of it. And I reached out to let her know how thankful we are in the city and businesses were for hosting such an event. And she says, in fact, they are coming back. And they enjoyed Lowell so much, the city, the architecture, and the hospitality they received. They were overwhelmed. And it's good news to hear that, you know, in early July next year, they are coming back. So, but through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager, Mr. Manager, I think it would be appropriate and it would go a long way if you reached out to some of these organizers and asked how their stay was, and see what we can do to enhance their visit. I think that would go a long way. I think that would be appropriate. I think they would appreciate that very much, coming from you, and let them know that we care and we want them back. What do we have to do? So I'd like you to do that, if you don't mind. And if there's no problem with the maker of the motion, I would like to amend it and add in the response, include the economic impact that it had, to your best of your ability, Mr. Manager. That these things have. This is what a convention city can do. If we have a hotel, that is. We have a nice arena that the UMass Lowell invested $10 million into. That is state of the art. We have a parking garage next door. If we had a hotel, I think we'd be seeing more of these. I really, really do. This is a mid-sized arena. Any larger than this, they hit the Boston into bigger cities, but there are many large conventions of this size looking for hosts, if you will, and I want to see Lowell on that list. So, so there's no problem with the maker of the motion. I'd like to amend it to include the economic impact. And again, Mr. Manager, if you can please reach out to organizers and ask how their stay was and what can we do, so to speak. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council.
Yeah, that's fine.
Council Milonazo, then back to Council Leahy.
Okay.
Or Council Leahy.
I was just gonna say, his amendment's fine, and if there's enough time to build a hotel in the next year, that'd be even better.
Okay.
We'll get right on that.
We'll get right on that. Councilor Milonazo.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Get
Mayor.
that, Mr. Manager?
Yeah, just as a follow-up, it's a good motion. I would ask that, it's my understanding that these events came to the city via the management company at the Songa Center. Global, I believe, is the management company. So I also know, as we all know, that the manager is now embarking on a collaborative marketing effort, working with other institutions here in the city. Does it make sense for you, as the Council Belanger said, to reach out to the management company specifically and have them in, talk about marketing and talk about what other events that they're planning, so that we as a community can be welcoming, as Council Belanger said, and be ready for these types of large events? Because overall, the feedback I heard was very positive. But I think that if you can reach out to Global, would make steps to get the report that the motion's looking for. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Council. Makes sense. Further comment on this motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion passes. Next motion of the evening by Councilor Samaras, request city manager work with Chair of Green Building Commission to develop an educational budget. Second by Councilor Rourke. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, as you know, the purpose of the Green Commission is for education, promote energy conservation, sustainable buildings. Several years ago, they had a budget of about $1,500 to develop educational materials. Is it possible to expand that to maybe $2,000, but to see that they can have a budget, an operational budget?
Mr. Manager.
Consider it done. It's a great idea. They do good work. They're going to be leafleting at the Folk Festival relative to their initiatives, and I think that it's we have some money in professional services in the DPD budget that we can use for these types of educational endeavors, and I think it's a good idea.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I mean, you have a good group of people, and with support like that, they'll work even harder. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Manager, hope this motion passes. Further discussion on this motion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed motion carries. Good job, Mr.
No roll call, please.
No roll call. Moving on to the next item, we have last motion of the evening by Councilor Samaras. Request city manager have city events coordinator recreate Family Fair Day as a 4th of July event. Seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. You know, the events department has a lot of work to do. They have a lot on their plate. And Lowell had a great fireworks display this past 4th of July. And we do a good job in that area. But I believe that 4th of July is a true family day, and we need to ensure that we have those type of activities, that those families that cannot afford to go to the beach or go away for the weekend during the 4th have some type of activities. Back in the 90s, there was the event was called Family Fair Day, and they had pony rides, they had bike races, petting zoos, that type of program. They also invited various bands, like the Air Force Band, to come in prior to the fireworks on the river. So I was just wondering if we could possibly look into those events and perhaps recreate the type of event that happened in the 90s. Again, a type of family day that's reasonably priced for our citizens to enjoy the day. The 4th it's an unusual holiday. It's to celebrate our independence, and I think we can't lose that, and I think that should be a true family day. So thank you.
Thank you, Council. Further thoughts on this motion? Comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. That concludes the business before the council. I just have one announcement. Just want to let members know, and this is a little bit further out. You probably have received this information as well. There is on August 20th, there is the Lowell Regional Veterans Mental Health Summit right here at Lowell Middlesex Community College at the Cowan Center. So just wanted to get that out there. You did receive an email as well, but just wanted to let the public know. Councilor Rourke?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, before we adjourn, I just recognize somebody that's actually in the audience tonight. Father Dwight is here, and this is actually his last week here in Lowell. He's been preaching in the city for some time now, and I'd like to thank him for all his work in Lowell and wish him the best of luck in his new endeavors.
Father Dwight, you want to come to the podium? We didn't know. I should have recognized you first. I mean, I should know better that we should recognize you, Father, first, but You seem like you were enjoying the meeting, so
We're going to be out before 9. Again, I thank the city of Lowell, and I've enjoyed my times. I've been in Lowell several times, attending city council meetings. I think it's very important. I'm from New York State originally, but being involved in the community, knowing what's happening in the community is very, very important to me. But I exercise that as a right as a United States citizen. So I think it's very important. So it's being here in the city of Lowell, at times trying to learn what's happening to the city, listen to people right here in the chambers, and just listening to all of you. It's hard to run a city. I do pray for everyone, and I've enjoyed my time here in the city. Especially, I served as 5 years as the chaplain for the Lowell City Fire Department. So I just happened to see the appointment of, or the first announcement for Skip Pitta. So I'm going to be here, make sure I'm going to be here. And again, I'm moving to St. William's Parish in Tewksbury, so I'm not going to be too far. So I will be coming back to the city to enjoy some of the great eatery places, some of the activities, and my prayer is that people would really exercise their rights to know what's happening in the city of Lowell or their community, and to be involved in the community wherever they can do. Thank you very much.
thank you, Father. We thank you for your prayers. It's good to know you're not going too far down the street, so I will say, if I do see that we have a 5-page agenda, as we have in the past, I'll certainly call on you, because I think the meetings are a lot shorter when you attend, so we appreciate it. Anything further before the council? This concludes our business for this meeting. Seeing none, entertain a motion to adjourn by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. This meeting stands adjourned.
Yes, it is. This would be great. I'll be the third man.
It's the whole thing, gotta keep pushing it.
Best of luck. Thank you so much. Oh, we'll see you around. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, Bruce Wayne gang stand.
Good for you. The umbrella's up. Let's come in.
Good enough. Oh, it's gonna be so good.